Welcome to the Jan Price Show, and my guest today is Kevin Tent, who is an Oscar-nominated editor and director and executive producer of a brand new, hilarious movie called Crash Pad. I had the honor of seeing it at the Carmel International Film Festival, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and with Kevin, too. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Hi, Jan. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. All right, Kevin, you have had a really wonderful, amazing career. And I wanted to start off with, how did you get into this business?
Yeah, that's a good question. And people always ask, and, they say, how did you become an editor? And and it's really true. I like to say that editing found me and I kind of found editing. It just happened. But, to start at the beginning, I had this vague notion that I wanted to work in movies, so I dropped out of school in New York State, where I was going to college, and moved to Los Angeles and went to LA City College, which was the main city school, community college here in the city. And they had a young film department, and I went there and made a couple short films. And then the first real job I got straight out of film school was cutting educational films. And I did a bunch of those, kind of those films you would see in high school, those really static, boring educational films. Mm-hmm. I wound up doing lots of those, which was a good training ground, because what happened, where my career really started and I really got into editing, was Roger Corman's studio called, and they were looking for an editor to take over a movie that was in trouble, and no one really wanted to deal with it. But fortunately, from working at the educational film company, I had learned how to pretty much do everything on the film. I mixed it, I cut sound effects, I cut the music in, and they really wanted someone to take this other movie at Rogers and just kind of finish it. So I was that person. I got hired to do that, and I was somewhat successful, I guess. And then they gave me my first feature film to cut shortly thereafter, and that was Not of This Earth. So that was quite a while ago. So then I wound up doing a lot of work for Roger Corman, a lot of his kind of movies, B movies. And also at that time I started doing, it was just the beginning of America's independent film movement was starting. And I wound up running into Tamara Davis, who was a director who also went to LACC. And I ran into her at the supermarket in our neighborhood. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she asked me what I was doing. I was like, I was still editing films. I've been doing that. And I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Well, I just had my first feature. And would you like to cut it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll cut it." So right there in the aisle of the Gelson's Market, the Mayfair Market in Silver Lake, we reacquainted ourselves, and I cut her film. And it was called Gun Crazy. And it was like one of the early independents, which was great. So I had been doing B movies for Roger Corman, and then started doing like little art films and little independent films. And then one day, Alexander Payne called, and that really got my career going when I hooked up with him. I did his first feature, Citizen Ruth, and then went on to do Election and all of his movies since.
Oh, what an amazing career! Serendipity. It sounds, I love serendipity, and it's, but obviously you're very good. Otherwise, Alexander Payne wouldn't have been calling.
Well, maybe that's true.
Even though he was early on in beginning his career.
Yeah.
But what I find also interesting now, when you went to film school, it was editing the area that you thought you would go into, or were you thinking about a different area of filmmaking when you went to school?
I didn't have a real clear, I think I thought, maybe I want to direct something. I didn't know really, but I didn't even know editing really existed. I was that clueless. But then when I started working on my short films and I realized, oh my God, this editing thing is pretty amazing. It's pretty creative, and I was like, wow, I had no idea. But I liked it. I remember going, oh, this is pretty amazing. So I thought, well, you know what? It wasn't even a choice, really. It just kind of all happened. So I don't know. But I went with it. I didn't resist it. I didn't fight it. I was embracing it. And I think that's, that also helped.
a good lesson in life, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we may go one direction, but the whole thing, our life may just go into an entirely different direction. And it's exactly just being open and allowing to whatever's going to unfold, and maybe take us to something that's greater than we had even imagined.
I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right. And I remember thinking at one point, because I had been thinking, I was going to be a director right now, but I said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to be the best editor I could possibly be and take it from there and figure out the directing thing later.
Good for you.
I do remember thinking that.
Good for you. Good for you. So tell us a little bit. Do you mind talking a little bit about working with Alexander Payne?
Not at all.
Okay, great. Because you've worked on Elections, Sideways. You were Oscar nominated for The Descendants.
Yeah,
I think that is so amazing.
Yeah, that was very, very nice. That was.
Tell us about that. What was that experience like? Hearing your name and then the process.
Yeah, it was really. It was exciting and really very touching and moving because you're nominated by your fellow editors, and that means a lot. It means that they really appreciated what we were doing in the movie and how it was cut, and that's really flattering because if anyone knows, it's editors, and
right.
It was just really flattering to be nominated, and it was exciting. Of course. There were people that said, "Oh yeah, you're going to get nominated," and I was like, "I don't know." But there were many people saying. So we did get up early in the morning and check. And I just got an email from a friend in New York, and I forgot what it said exactly. I think it said congratulations, and I was like, "What's that? What is that? Was that mean I got nominated?" And it took a while to figure it out. And then our phone rang, and it was somebody from Spain, I think, like a journalist or something. I don't know. Yeah, something wacky, and then I knew it was for real. So it was fun. It was exciting. It was an exciting day.
I can imagine. And then just going through the entire awards ceremony.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I was a nervous wreck that day. Yeah. I was so afraid I was going to have to get up and say something. I was a nervous wreck.
It would have been fun. Do you remember who you lost to?
Yes, it was the boys. Angus and Kirk, who had cut a Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. And they were so funny because we all hung out a lot because there were a lot of events with all the nominees and stuff. So, and I know those guys from before. It was kind of funny. We all gave each other a hug before, and they were convinced that I was going to win. But of course they won, which was funny, and then they were pretty adorable. But it was fun. It was really fun.
So you've continued your association with Alexander Payne, and you most recently have worked on the brand new movie that hasn't even come out yet, which I had the privilege of seeing at the Toronto Film Festival, which is Downsizing with Matt Damon and Hung Chow. Is that yes? And she was adorable.
Yeah.
And quite a few other, Jason Sudeikis is in it, and
Kristen Wiig, Christoph Waltz.
Yes, he was so
Laura
funny.
Dern, Neil Patrick Harris. It's loaded up.
It is loaded up with a lot of little cameos in there too. So tell everybody, the audience, since the movie hasn't come out yet, the premise of Downsizing, and how it was editing that particular film. I'm sure it had its own challenges.
It did. Well, the premise is that it's quite hilarious, and it unfolds slowly, so it sounds more believable when I just say it. But it's about how these Norwegian scientists figure out, in order to save the planet, they figure out how to shrink human beings to about 5 inches tall, which means they can, they'll eat less food, they'll be able to sustain longer, and at first it's all, this is great. People are downsizing in order to save the planet, but what happens is humans are humans, and they start downsizing because they can sell their modest homes in Omaha, Nebraska, and buy a big mansion at this planned community. And then, they can save money on medicine, and they can save money on food. And so the world kind of goes crazy. But the story follows Matt Damon, who is the lead character, who basically decides to do this with his wife, and then misadventures happen. I don't want to
Right.
tell
We don't
too
want
much
to.
about
No,
it.
don't give it away.
I
Don't give
tell about
away.
it.
Yeah.
But they make themselves small, and then he's on a journey, a life journey.
Yes.
So
It is good.
Yeah, I mean, it was, Alexander and I, worked together on many films, and we approached it exactly how we approached all our other films. We make most of our editorial choices by watching the performances and making sure that the actors are, the performances are the strongest thing and the most important thing to us. And that was the case even with a movie with a lot of visual effects and that kind of stuff. So...
And there are a lot of visual effects in this film. So we'll talk a little bit more about it when we come back after these brief messages. You are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies on Power Talk, 1460 and 101 FM, and like the Jan Price Show on Facebook.
Have you ever dreamed of doing commercials or movies? Your dream starts with a desire. And if you have the desire to do commercials and feature films, we want to know about you. We're Moco Film, one of the Genesis companies that includes VoiceJock, a major provider of TV commercial talent to TV stations throughout the nation. Registering is free. Just go to mocofilm.com and fill out the information. That's MOCOfilm.com. You'll become part of a large talent bank available to producers. Go to mocofilm.com today and start living your dream.
Tired of looking at your worn wood floors? Mr. Sandless can bring them back to life again. That's right, it's Mr. Sandless, the no sanding solution to beautiful wood floors. Mr. Sandless is clean, efficient, contains no harmful chemicals, and is certified green. Mr. Sandless refinishes all hardwoods, softwoods, engineered flooring, and laminates. Most jobs are completed in one day with no cleanup required ever, with virtually no odor, and is safe for pets and kids. No need to move out or even leave the house. Mr. Sandless is the company that invented Sandless Refinishing and is the largest floor refinishing company in the world. Over 120,000 happy customers, guaranteed adhesion, guaranteed satisfaction, and a 5-year warranty. Call Mr. Sandless today at 831-747-7476. That's 747-7476. Or MrSandless.com. That's MrSandless.com.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
We are back, and my guest today is Oscar-nominated editor, director, and executive producer Kevin Tent, and we're going to be talking about his brand new movie, Crash Pad. But right now, we're talking about downsizing. I had the privilege of going to the press conference with Alexander Payne and Matt Damon at the Toronto Film Festival, and Alexander did talk a little bit about some of the special effects, but he doesn't usually do movies with special effects. So how was it editing a film like this compared to the other movies he's done in the past?
Yeah. He's usually known for doing films that are, pretty much about characters. And I was, right before the break, I was kind of saying that we approach the editing still the same way. Like, we really honed in on our performances, which is what I think it's one of the things we do well together. But on top of that, there were all the visual effects and stuff like that. So it was a little more time consuming, and a lot of back and forth with the visual effects people. But really, we chose our takes, and then we built the visual effects around those takes for the most part. But we had a spectacular visual effects crew that, really handled a lot of that stuff. There was, of course, a lot of interaction with us and the visual effects team and everything like that. But they had designers, and they would show us, this is what we think the city is going to look like, or the world, the small world, and stuff like that. And there was a lot of back and forth. And then the shots started coming in, and it takes a long time for them. So sometimes you won't see a new version of a shot for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they start coming in when they feel they're ready to show. And it just took longer, I guess, is what the upshot is. But it was a slightly different process, but really our editing process was similar.
Again, it's just I have to tell everyone when this movie comes out, you must go see it. It really,
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
it is. It's funny, and yet it's poignant, and it has
Yeah.
a message, and
Yeah.
and it's got all of the different things going on, and great performances by everyone, and it just was, it's a special movie. It's one of those special movies. Who knows? You may get nominated again. There's talk.
Well, you never know.
There's
Who knows?
talk out there.
Who knows?
You never do know.
You never know.
So one of the things I have when you're editing a movie, do you wait until the movie is entirely shot and then go to the editing room, or do you edit it as it's being filmed, or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, but usually you start editing as soon as they start shooting, and you're supposed to have a cut fairly quickly after they're done so that they can see what the heck they've shot.
Okay.
And usually that's called an editor's rough cut, and it's pretty hard to watch, actually. I find them hard to watch. They're not good. Let's just say that. Because, you might cut one scene in the morning after you've had a couple coffees, and it's fast, and then the scene that comes next to it, maybe they shot 3 or 4 days later or 2 weeks later, and you cut that, and it's in the afternoon, it's a little slow, and then when you start putting them all together, there's no smoothness to anything. It's a mess. So, and usually also in the assembly stage, you put in everything. So, you try to work in, at least I try to work in shots that they shot. You put in every line, even though well, this line probably will come out, or this will probably start the scene later. There's a lot of things you're already thinking, but for the very first pass, I put everything in there. But my process with Alexander is slightly different from other films. When Alexander comes into the cutting room, we start from scratch. I have a whole cut of the movie, and how I've shown him scenes while they were shooting. Like I'll usually send him Fridays. I usually send him, this is what I cut this week, and it's just the scenes because there's nothing to join them together really. So he kind of knows what we've got, or if he calls up and says, can you cut this scene? I'm worried about this. Can you cut it real quick? I'll jump right on it and turn around and send it back to him. But when he comes into the cutting room, we start watching dailies, and we start doing basically an editor's/director's cut. And we go through the whole movie and start from scratch in a lot of ways. And then we'll go back and look at what I had cut, and we'll compare it and stuff like that. But basically, we start from scratch. That's the way he likes to do it. And we've kind of done that since, I think the last time he watched an assembly was About Schmidt. So that was quite a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he wound up he just doesn't like it. It's too depressing.
What is being
watching a editor's assembly of the movie? It is really hard to watch.
So I have had another editor on our show, Bob Franco, and we talked about how the editing really can change the performances and the tone and tenor of a movie. So so the editor really wields a lot of power. Do you find that to be true?
Well, it's I guess power. I guess you could say that. I mean, you work closely. You're like a team. You're working closely with, unless there's no director involved. Like, for example, with Alexander, I'm working very closely with him. It's not like power, but you're certainly influencing decisions. And I like to think of it as you're like an advisor to the president. You're like saying, what if we do this? Maybe this will be better and serve our purpose here. And, you're constantly thinking of ideas in order to, a director might say, I just don't believe her here. And it's your job to say, how can we make that work? So you either look for different takes, or maybe you don't show as much. There's a lot of tricks and a lot of ways to make things work. And that's kind of your job, to make things work.
It's fascinating. You're right. That sounds like very creative and just really fascinating and different way of, being actively involved. I was going to ask you how involved directors are. So they're very involved with the editing process. Most directors?
They're all different. They're all people. So they're all going to be different, and they all approach it in different ways. So Alexander loves being in the cutting room. But other directors, I've worked with Barry Sonnenfeld, he'd prefer never to come in there. He likes to just come in and see some notes that he had, and he's more of a broad strokes kind of person in a lot of ways. So they're all different. And then some people, they don't know what they want, or they're not completely clear, or they just don't know what they don't like. And then you kind of work that way. So everyone's different. Every film's different. Every director's different. Every relationship is different.
That's true. That's true for everything in life. That's very true.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because it seems like everybody I've ever talked to on this show pretty much has started their career with Roger Corman. It just is amazing. I can't tell you how many people I've had on the show that started with, and one of them is our mutual friend and my neighbor, Mark Governor.
Yeah.
Who worked with you on some of the Roger Corman's films, but also worked with you on Crash Pad, which we will get to. We will talk more about Crash Pad. So, what was it like working with Roger Corman? And he has an eye for talent, for sure, because he's given a lot of people their start.
He has. And you know what? But really, his motivations are always the dollar bill, which is pretty hilarious. So that people think, he gave all these people their starts. But really, he was like, well, that guy will work cheap, so let's get him to do this. And, he'll direct that movie for nothing. So, and, that was the kind of place it was. But if you had the right attitude and you were like, oh, you know what? I'll go and work down there for almost no money, but I'll gain experience. That's how I was about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was extremely useful to me. And it wasn't for everybody. There would be lots of people that would be there for a week or two and then just quit and leave and, felt demoralized. But I never felt that way. I always took it for what it was, an opportunity to learn and learn. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And when I started down there, it was just when the video market was taking off, the home video market. So that was in the very late 80s and the early 90s. And Roger was just making a lot of movies, a lot of product. So they were making like a movie a month down there. And if you were working hard and had the right attitude, you could wind up, you could be the craft service person 1 week and, 6 months later be running the studio. There was a lot of turnover and a lot of crazy stuff. But it was a really good place to learn how to edit. And I just ran into Joe Dante a little while ago, and he said that to me, which was great. And I agreed with him. Actually, I had said that, and he said it too. But we were both talking about how it was a really good place to learn how to cut.
Well, you totally did have the right attitude. If you go into something, again, everything is about our attitude, but if you go into it going, okay, I'm going to go and learn as much as I can, and that's what you did, then you came out and you did learn a lot, and then that led to your association with Alexander Payne. When we come back from this break, I want to talk about stealing a scene, because I thought that was absolutely fascinating.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So after these quick commercial breaks, we'll be right back. You are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM, and like the Jan Price Show on Facebook.
Do you have difficulty falling or staying asleep? Do you suffer from snoring, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, or other sleep disorders? If so, we can help. Call Monterey Bay Sleep Center and arrange a sleep study in one of our luxury suites. We specialize in diagnosing and treating sleep disorders so you can regain your quality of life. Our luxury suites feature hotel-quality beds and flat-panel TVs so that you feel most comfortable during your stay. Call us today to arrange a sleep study at our secure facility in Monterey.
Call 831-920-1411. That's 831-920-1411.
The Ozio Theater in downtown Monterey is now open every day, showing independent and foreign films. The Ozio Theater has new concession offerings, including beer, wine, hard cider, and their homemade Lush Slush. You can now schedule private event screenings for community charity events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just a fun gathering of friends. For more information, visit the Ozio Theater online at oziotheater.com.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
We are back, and my guest today is Oscar-nominated editor Kevin Tent, who is also the director and executive producer of his brand new movie called Crash Pad. And before the break, we were talking about Roger Corman, and you learned this little trick called stealing a scene. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is? And I mean, I thought this was just so funny and fascinating.
It is really funny, and it's so funny too because actually I started out doing that when I worked for the Educational Film Company too. The producer there didn't want to reshoot some certain shots, so he would go, "Well, we already shot that shot once in this other movie. Let's just use it again." Well, little did I know that skill set would come in handy with working for Roger Corman. But the very first time we ever stole a scene from another movie was this movie, my very first movie I cut down there, called Not of This Earth. And it was Tracy Lord's first legitimate film after her scandal. I don't know if people know who she was, but she was an underage porn star. But this was her first legitimate movie. And the movie was really short. So the director said, let's just steal this other scene from a movie called Humanoids from the Deep. And it was sort of a self-contained scene with this girl hearing a noise outside her bathroom, and she sneaks around the house, grabs a knife, it builds with suspense, and then she opens up her front door, which is rattling. And all we did is we shot our bad guy, who was an alien. We only needed one shot of him, and then he took off his glasses, and X-ray eyes shot out beams, and then we quickly cut to a girl that kind of looked like the girl from the other movie. She was in the same kind of outfit, and all she did was scream really quick, and these laser lights, zapped her. And and the scene worked perfectly. It was like a 3.5-minute scene that we added to the movie, well, maybe 3. And so we stole a scene from another movie or another Roger movie and dropped it in our movie, and it worked perfect.
And then you continued to do that, right?
I continued. I became actually a resident expert on doing that kind of thing. And it's really true. People would come to me and go, Kev, we need a car crash, and where can we get one that people haven't seen a lot? I'd go, well, you should check out Eat My Dust. There's some good car crashes in there. And so they would go and find it and steal it and put it in their movie.
Yeah, so. You were the resident expert on
I became the resident expert of stealing scenes from movies. Yeah, in fact, we made a couple of movies just out of stolen scenes, which was a lot of fun
Did you
too.
Really?
It was a really fun place to work. It was really, ridiculous, but it was lots of fun.
It sounds like it was lots of fun.
It definitely was.
Yeah. So, what made you decide that you wanted to become a director after you've had this very successful career as an editor? What made you want to tackle something new and different?
I think you just put the nail on the head there. It was really just to challenge myself. I have thoroughly enjoyed and loved editing, and I still do. But I was just looking for something to challenge myself and to do something bigger, and like climbing Mount Everest or something like that, or running the marathon. I just wanted to try it, and it's been something that I had wanted to do for a long time, but I just put it on the back burner because I was so enjoying editing and so busy doing that. So I started a few years ago thinking, well, you know what, maybe I should try it. And I started looking around for a project, and I was lucky enough to find Jeremy Catalino's script, which at that time was called Bim Bam Baby. And, I liked it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was smart. It was the dialogue was zippy and interesting and hilarious, and I loved the lead character. I thought, well, maybe I should try to direct this. And it took quite a while to get it going, but Alexander kind of had a heads up that downsizing might delay for a year to wait for Matt Damon, and so he let me know, and I was like, God, a year. I'm going to try to get this movie made now. And so I pushed really hard. I got a great producer involved, Bill Horberg, and he really helped get it going. And by golly, we got it done. We got it done in the year-long window that we had. So.
Wow, that's pretty good to get it done that quickly. Why don't we tell the audience what Crash Pad is about without giving away too much? Yeah. Because it's absolutely hysterical.
Oh, well, thanks, Jen. I kind of think of it as kind of a 1940s screwball comedy updated for today.
Yeah, I think that's a good description.
Yeah. Like a friend of mine really said it well. He said that it would, if Cary Grant and Rosamund Russell could swear, they would make this movie.
you know, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a it's kind of a backwards romantic comedy in a way. There's this lead character, Stensland, who's a total quirky, smart stoner guy who falls in love with this woman who he's had a one-night stand with, and she basically says it's a one-night stand, but he's head over heels in love with her, so he's obsessed with her, and anyways, he threatens to blackmail her because she's married, and shenanigans ensue. The husband comes and basically moves in with him, which I don't know if that's a very good explanation of it, but and then mayhem ensues.
And mayhem does ensue, and it is hysterical. So let's talk about this incredible cast. First of all, you've got Domhnall Gleeson. Is that how you say his first name?
Donal. You say Donal, yeah.
How is
Donal
it?
Gleeson. Donal Gleeson. Like tonal, but Donal.
Donal Gleeson.
It's the Irish way. They spell it. He spells it the Irish, because he is Irish.
Well,
so.
he's in every movie right now. I mean, he is. And absolutely every time I go to movies, he's in the movie.
I know. He's such a good actor. He's so amazing in everything he does. And we were so lucky to get him. And I'll tell you, we were just very lucky to get him. And he's the first person we went to for that role.
And I'm wondering why. When I read that during the research for this show, I read that and I was like, well, I wonder why, because he's not necessarily known for comedy. He's known for his dramatic roles. And this is definitely a very comedic role. So why was he the only choice that you wanted? What was it about him?
You know, I had seen him in About Time. That he had done a movie which was kind of it was comedic. It was definitely a comedy. Yeah. But he hadn't done anything for a while in the comedic mode. But I just thought he'd be great, and I just thought he could be great. And I love the idea of casting somebody from the UK, because I figured, British actors are so good and so well trained, and I was worried about the dialogue being there are a lot of tongue twisters in there that Jeremy wrote, and I knew my instincts were that a classically trained actor would be good for us. He'd be able to deliver those lines. So
and he did.
He did.
And very well.
Yeah. So anyways, I just thought he could be great. And fortunately, Bill Horberg, the producer I mentioned earlier, he got it to Donal's agent, and Donal's agent liked it, and she gave it to Donal right away, and he loved it. So he was like, I'm in. So that was huge, and that really got us. Our financing started to come into place then, and we started getting it together. The movie started coming together, which was great.
And then you attracted Thomas Hayden Church, who you worked with in Sideways.
Yeah.
So, and he's wonderful. I mean, he's also in a lot of lately. He's showing up in a lot of movies lately too. So I know you worked with him, but how did you attract him to this project? Because he's in high demand.
Yeah. Well, once we had Donal, that was great. And a lot of actors know what other actors are doing. So I think Thomas was attracted to that idea. And Thomas really thought the script was funny too. But it definitely helped that he and I knew each other. And he really did us a favor by joining us. It was in a very big budget film, and then first-time director and everything. But I think Alexander having his name on it also made everyone feel comfortable about joining. But really, Thomas did us a big favor by coming on. I'm greatly appreciative that he did that. And he did a great job. And he and Donal together on the set and off the set had great chemistry, and they made everyone laugh all the time. And it was pretty fun. It was really fun.
You definitely get the chemistry on the screen. And he looks very handsome in this movie. I must
that's good.
say.
I will tell him you said that.
Please do. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. He's a handsome guy.
He is a handsome guy. I don't know if I've always realized that, but he is.
Yeah, he's got that rugged good look. He definitely has that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Definitely is. And then you have, also rounding out the cast.
Nina Dobrev, who was the next person that joined us, which is also great. She was so lovely and so delightful, and she wanted to do a comedy, and she jumped on board, which was just fantastic, and she's delightful.
Yes.
And she's delightful in the movie, too. And then our last big person that we cast, and thank God she joined us, was Christina Applegate.
And she's wonderful.
Yeah, she was really great. And, again, these people, they don't want to necessarily, come onto a film with a first-time director, but they were all wonderful to do so. And I'm deeply appreciative of them.
And it was, and you mentioned Alexander. He is the producer, executive producer?
Exactly. He's an executive producer on it, yeah.
And did he get involved at all with what was his involvement level in this movie?
He was great. He was also downsizing. The pre-production for downsizing was starting to happen while we were shooting and everything, so he was really spread thin. But he was always there at clutch moments, which was great. And I told him I would not try to, would not overuse him and stuff like that. But clutch moments when we were closing the deal to get the money and the distribution and stuff like that, he showed up at the meetings, which was great. He would write letters to actors. He would do all that kind of thing. And then when we were editing, if he saw cuts, gave me notes, all that stuff. He's been great.
Wonderful.
He's been like the 800-pound gorilla in my back pocket if I ever need him. So
nice to
even
have.
though he doesn't act like a gorilla or anything, but it's good to have a friend like that.
Yes, it is. It's nice to have a friend like that. Definitely it is. We're going to be right back after these brief messages. You are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM, and like the Jan Price Show on Facebook.
Tired of looking at your worn wood floors? Mr. Sandless can bring them back to life again. That's right, it's Mr. Sandless, the no sanding solution to beautiful wood floors. Mr. Sandless is clean, efficient, contains no harmful chemicals, and is certified green. Mr. Sandless refinishes all hardwoods, softwoods, engineered flooring, and laminates. Most jobs are completed in one day with no cleanup required ever, with virtually no odor, and is safe for pets and kids. No need to move out or even leave the house. Mr. Sandless is the company that invented Sandless Refinishing and is the largest floor refinishing company in the world. Over 120,000 happy customers, guaranteed adhesion, guaranteed satisfaction, and a 5-year warranty. Call Mr. Sandless today at 831-747-7476. That's 747-7476 or MrSandless.com. That's MrSandless.com.
Have you ever dreamed of doing commercials or movies? Your dream starts with a desire. And if you have a desire to do commercials and feature films, we want to know about you. We're Moco Film, one of the Genesis companies that includes VoiceJock, a major provider of TV commercial talent to TV stations throughout the nation. Registering is free. Just go to mocofilm.com and fill out the information. That's MOCOfilm.com. You'll become part of a large talent bank available to producers. Go to mocofilm.com today and start living your dream.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
We are back, and my guest today is Oscar-nominated editor Kevin Tent, who is also the director and executive producer of his brand new film called Crash Pad. Kevin, when you were working with the actors, because now you're in an entirely different role as a director, how much did you allow, because I know a lot of actors like to improvise, how much did you allow them to improvise, or did you, or did you want them mostly to stick with the script?
Well, for Stensland, Donald Gleason's character, the dialogue was so specific that he really stuck to what was written there, and that was really good. And that was, like I think I mentioned earlier, that there's some real tongue twisters in the dialogue, and but Donald nailed them completely. Thomas likes to improv, and I remembered that from Sideways. He would do some of the funniest lines in the movie are, Thomas's improvs from Sideways, and so I knew he'd want to do that. And what I told him on the set was, as long as the intent of the line is the same, go with it, run with it. So he felt more comfortable doing that, but Donald felt more comfortable, reading the lines as written. So it kind of worked out kind of nice.
How about Christina and
Nina?
Nina.
They stuck to their lines pretty much. Christina stuck to her lines. I remember a couple of takes, she was like, "What? Who wrote this?" And Jeremy was standing right there. It was pretty funny. But they pretty much stuck to their lines. There might have been some improvs in places, but for the most part, if I remember correctly, they stuck to what was written. So it was Thomas that liked to improv and throw different things out there.
And it's good that you knew that going into it, having
was
worked with him
good.
before, so
Yeah.
you knew how to direct him then. Because if he was getting into the improv and you didn't want him to do that, then that could have created tension on the set, I would think.
Yeah, you're right. I was aware that he would do that. That I thought he might do that, and that was good that I. And you know what? If I could do it all over again, I'd even let him do more stuff. You know, there was so much going on, and we were such a short schedule and everything like that. If I could do it all over again, I would have shot more and let them do more takes and do more different things. But you know, we had a very short schedule. So
How long did it take you to film this?
we shot in 23 days.
Oh, that
which
is
was,
short. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a small, low budget film. So
Well, it doesn't look that way.
you know, thanks for saying that.
You're
because
welcome. It's
that
not
was
the truth.
that was one of our goals because so much of it takes place in their apartment. We didn't want it to be. Whenever we had a chance to go outside and go to a club or something, I wanted it to seem big, so the whole movie didn't feel too claustrophobic. So that's great if it's seen that way.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does. How much with Jeremy Catalino? He was the writer, the screenwriter. How actively involved was he? Was he on the set when you were filming? And were there changes that take place? Does the screenwriters normally work when the film is being made, or they write it and they're not involved? Does that vary?
They're not always. I think every case is different. Every film is different. Our case was I would have loved to have having him there more. He only came to visit for a few days, but his wife had just had another baby, so he had to get home for that. But he came, I think, for about a week, and it was great to have him. And actually, we did rewrite a couple of things while he was there. We needed, you know, because of a location change or something like that, we needed something quickly adjusted, and he did that. But yeah, every movie's different. Sometimes people don't want the writers around, or you know, sometimes they do. But I would have loved to have them more. But at least we had them some of the time, which was nice.
That's good. That's good to have that. So, how did it feel taking on the role of being a director after working on so many films as an editor? So, how was that process for you?
You know, it was really hard.
Now you have a good appreciation
really
for what directors do.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I was already extremely empathetic and sympathetic to directors when I could see they usually come into the cutting room half the human beings they were before they left, after they've been shooting. So I was kind of expecting it was going to be hard, but it is really hard and it's exhausting, but it's also a lot of fun. I mean, you know, you get to work with great people, and my cast and my crew were amazing, and you know, it's intense. It's wild, but I learned a lot. And you know, if I ever get a chance to do it again, I think I'll hopefully do even a better job.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you have something else in mind to direct?
No, I don't have anything in mind, but I'm starting to think about it. You know, I'm starting to think about, what would be the next thing if I wanted to do something. So it's slowly starting to come into focus.
Good. So tell us about where what is next for Crash Pad. Where can people see it? Where has it been released yet? Are you just doing the film festival circuit at this point?
Yeah, well, we finished up our film festivals, which was delightful and so much fun, and it got really good reception at all of them. So that was really fun. And it's had its small theatrical run already. I don't think it's in theaters anymore, but it played in like 20 cities.
Great.
It's on right now. If people want to see it, please go to your Amazon or go to iTunes, wherever you normally rent movies, and you should be able to find it. And if you like it, please review it. And then it comes out on DVD on December 5th. So they can also buy it get their own DVD if they want.
Coming up then.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah, very soon. So who inspires you? I mean, who do you look up to, or who has inspired you in your career?
Well, there's certainly editors that have inspired me. Ann Coates, who cut Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, she's an amazing editor, an amazing person. Mark Goldblatt is another editor who I look up to, and there's so many good editors. And editors are really nice people. That's the other thing about them. They really are, and I'm proud to be in that group with them. And then, for directors, I mean, there's so many. so many directors that I look up to and consider heroes. Alexander, I think he's great.
Yes,
I'm so
he
lucky
is.
to work with him, and he's also a really good person.
Yes, you get that. He is a good person.
Yeah,
He comes across.
that's not always a combo you get,
Mm-hmm.
but it is with him, and he's generous and just generally a good guy. So
That's nice to hear.
yeah. So, but there's lots of people that I look up to, and lots of films I love, and hope to aspire to someday, and that kind of thing. But
Do you have a favorite movie?
God, no, it's too hard. People always ask me, I'm like, God, it's so hard.
It is hard to answer. I know people ask me that all the time, too.
I know, there's like a zillion good ones.
There
but
are.
I always loved Chinatown.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that movie.
Yeah, I do,
It's
too.
beautiful and romantic and suspenseful and tragic, and it's got it all going on. And it's got history. And if you live in Los Angeles, it certainly means a lot to you.
It does. And you know what? I just watched it not that long ago, and things haven't really changed.
No, isn't that true?
It is.
I know.
It is. 'Cause
I
that was
know.
like, what, 1974 or something?
I think it
around
was,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, it was set earlier in this century. I think.
Yes.
Isn't it supposed to be taking place? I can't remember what era.
I think
40s?
in the 40s? In the 40s, I
40s,
think. But I think
40s, 50s,
historically
yeah.
it was actually in the teens, because I've looked it up. Because I think it really happened in like 1918, what it's based on. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I love watching older movies, because we do learn. I mean, there is history involved in many of them. Hopefully they haven't been, lots of history is manipulated to be different than it was actually, but you can learn a lot.
Yeah. No, it's true.
From watching
True.
them. What makes a movie great for you?
When all the parts are working. And that's what's really, when something's really well directed, you can't put your finger on it, but the performances are good, the editing's good, the production design is good, it all meshes, the music's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chinatown's a great example. It's just like, I think, to me personally, but it's just you sit back and relax and you just watch this great movie go by, and you get engaged, and I think engagement, if you're really engaged in something and you're not thinking about where your car is parked or something like that, that's a good sign.
It is a good sign. I know. I just came back from the Napa Film Festival, and I was watching a movie, and I was thinking about, what do I want for lunch?
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. I was like, okay, my stomach's growling. What can I have for lunch today? Where can I go?
I know. Yeah.
Then that's not a good sign at all.
That's not a good sign. Hopefully that won't happen on Crash Pad or Downside.
Not at all. No, you'll be fully engaged in each one of those. And as I always say about being moved, if you're moved some way, whether it's through just laughing or tears, and sometimes you get both, laughter and tears, which I love. And but with whatever it's supposed to do, I don't like horror films, so I would stay away from those. But if it's a good horror film, it should scare you, So those kinds of things, it should move the needle. If you just go and go, oh well, that was okay, and you walk away and you have no impression about the movie, then the movie has not done its job. I don't think,
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. You're absolutely right. That's right.
You're exactly about moving the needle. Well, we're going to be right back after this quick commercial break. You are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies, on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM, and like the Jan Price Show on Facebook.
Do you have difficulty falling or staying asleep? Do you suffer from snoring, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, or other sleep disorders? If so, we can help. Call Monterey Bay Sleep Center and arrange a sleep study in one of our luxury suites. We specialize in diagnosing and treating sleep disorders so you can regain your quality of life. Our luxury suites feature hotel-quality beds and flat panel TVs so that you feel most comfortable during your stay. Call us today to arrange a sleep study at our secure facility in Monterey.
Call 831-920-1411. That's 831-920-1411.
The Ozio Theater in downtown Monterey is now open every day, showing independent and foreign films. The Ozio Theater has new concession offerings, including beer, wine, hard cider, and their homemade Lush Slush. You can now schedule private event screenings for community charity events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just a fun gathering of friends. For more information, visit the Ozio Theater online at oziotheater.com.
on Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
We are back, and my guest today is Oscar-nominated editor Kevin Tent, who is also the director and executive producer of his brand new film called Crash Pad, which I highly recommend everybody go find. It is absolutely hysterical. If you're having one of those days when you're feeling maybe a little low or you just feel like you need to laugh, this is the movie. It's nonstop laughter. I thought it was just great. Kevin, what was the most challenging thing about bringing the script to life for you?
The most challenging thing was that I was remarkably clueless on how to make it all happen. But, I had good people, and that helped a lot. I just learned a lot. But it was a challenge to go, okay, it all happened very quickly, too. Like, like once Donald joined and then Thomas came on, and all of a sudden we were going, but it was very short prep, like 3 weeks and 3 days of prep, and it was crazy. It was crazy. So it was a big challenge to kind of go up there and just hire people right away and fill the shoes of a director, which is, everyone's like going, what do you want to do here? And you're like, well, I thought about this, and you don't always know the answers to all the questions that come up at you. So it was it's kind of a whirlwind that happens when you're directing something.
Well, how did you feel when you didn't know the answer? I mean, I think it's good if people admit sometimes, people think of out of their ego, well, I've got to know all the answers. But the reality is, I think it's when you're vulnerable and you're open and transparent and you don't know the answers, I think you're more in your power, I think, So how did you feel?
I often said, I don't know. I said that a lot, probably more than people wanted to hear. But I would say, well, what do you think? You're the production designer. Well, what's the best way to, what do you think is the best way to do this? And a lot of decisions are made by money or lack of it,
right,
or, or time, or you can only get this location till 2. So many decisions are being made for you, and that's also a little disconcerting because you're like, oh no, we were gonna do these shots and we're gonna do it like this, and then you wind up not being able to. So for some one reason or another.
Right.
So
right. Those are all those challenges that you don't know are going to come up. Did you edit your own film, or did you have somebody else edit it?
No, I worked with an editor who was my assistant years ago, Franco Ponte, and I had done a movie up in Vancouver where we shot, and he was my cutter. But I did do some cutting with him because you can't put footage in front of an editor and not have them dig in. So I did. We worked together very closely, and it was a great experience. I would cut a scene, and then he would take it, and then he would recut it, and then he would send me a scene, and then I would recut it, and we kind of kept going back and forth on that, like that, and it was a really nice experience.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Good. What is the most important lesson that you've ever learned in order to become successful in this career that you've chosen?
I think, me personally, and I get it from my parents, I think I'm just a hard worker, and I just, put my head down and go to work. And over the years, I think I've learned to trust my instincts more and that kind of thing. But hard work and not giving up, I think. Persistence. That's good.
Yeah. That's good advice. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give someone who would like to become an editor?
What I tell people, and this is only because it's worked for me, so every human's different, and everyone's story is different on how they got to where they're going. But I edited so many different things. Like if somebody said, I have a short film to edit, I would be like, I'll edit. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let me do it. I just kept cutting stuff, and I got better and better. And I tell people, even if they're, cut their sister's wedding video, or cut their baby video, whatever, just to keep cutting and experimenting and using music and putting things together. And it's not like that in itself is going to launch your career, but a door will open at some point and you'll feel confident enough to step through it. And that's what happened to me,
Good advice. Well, Kevin, it's The hour has whizzed by. It's
It
been
has.
wonderful having you on the show.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Let everybody know once again where they can view Crash Pad before we...
Crash Pad is available on iTunes or Amazon or wherever you rent movies, and it will be on DVD on December 5th.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks so much.
It's been great. You have
Okay.
been, thank you. You've been listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM, and like the Jan Price Show on Facebook.